Hi everyone, today we'll be talking about, is admission affected by safety? And by admission, I mean school admission. Is school admission affected by safety? Let's start with a case study or a scenario. So, Mr. Bola has just been appointed the Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and he'll be relocating to Abuja, the seat of power in Nigeria. He'll be relocating with his wife and his children. So, his wife is really particular about finding a school that would be a good place for her children. And again, she doesn't want this school to be really far from the environment they live in. So she goes on this school hunting expedition. And she finds this school. She gets there. The security man opens the gate for her. She meets the school owner, and everything is looking beautiful, checking out well. Nice curriculum, beautiful buildings, school fees are affordable, of which money is not really the problem. And the appearance also looks good. But she never went back to that school. After telling the school owner that she was going to be back in some few weeks to enroll her kids. What do you think went wrong in that situation? Bearing in mind, everything was great. So what do you think was the situation? So this is it. This woman is the wife of a high-ranking official in the country. This makes her and her family susceptible to kidnapping efforts, because sometimes people would want to kidnap children of high-profile citizens so that they can make some money off the situation. And so for her, priority was security procedures. When she went to this school, the process of the security personnel opening the gates for her to even the time she had to leave, there was no procedure. He didn't even ask her questions, and she saw how easy it was for a total stranger to come into the school. A school is supposed to be a safe place. Nobody is supposed to go to school and die or get kidnapped or for something bad to happen to them. So that did not check off in her own books, and so she had to bounce to another school. Now, here's another scenario. So there's this pandemic that is affecting almost all countries across the world. Schools had to be shut down. Governments had to put the citizens on lockdown. And this thing happened before schools had to officially close for the session. By the time parents started to compare notes on social media, WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups, and Instagram, parents began to realize that some schools sort of were prepared, because these schools activated their crisis management system, sent out information to parents, even prepared ahead the study materials the children were going to be using during the lockdown, and they continued to check up on them throughout the period. While for some other schools, nothing happened. Nothing. No procedure, nothing. No follow-up, no system whatsoever. Now, when parents begin to have these conversations with themselves, what do you think is going to happen by the time schools resume? Because they're obviously seeing that there is a difference. While some people are getting some things, some services, some opportunities, some others are not getting it. So what do you think would begin to happen? Parents would begin to rethink their choices. So do you see that there is just so much that is involved in the school admission process or ensuring that your school thrives? And one of it relies on safety. What is your preparedness for unexpected occurrences? What is your preparedness for different situations? Are you ready if anything happens in your school? And you see, most times people want to wait for things to happen before they know what to do. No. Crisis management is really important. Having safety procedures is really important. They make you look prepared. They make you look professional. And so when things go wrong, your parents can count on you. According to the child rights law, every organization that opens its door to children must ensure that the health and safety of those children are not compromised in any way. So this means you have a duty of care to everyone who comes into your premises. In my opinion, there are four major things, four major important considerations that schools must bear in mind when they're trying to ensure that their schools are a safe place for children. The first is appearance, the next is policies and procedures, the other is staff, and more importantly, safety features. Let's get to it one after the other. Appearance. What is the overall outlook of your school? What do the buildings look like? How is the cleanliness of the environment? What is the terrain like? What is the floor like? What is the playground like? How is lighting done in school? Are there dark corners? Are there trailing cables? Are there broken fences? Are there holes in the walls? Is the paint peeling? Do we have a bushy terrain? What is the surrounding like? What are the neighbors to the school building? What do they look like? What features do they have that could impede the safety of people in your school? There is so much that comes into play when we're talking about the appearance of your school. That is the first thing people are going to see, and if the first thing people see is not even encouraging, it makes them wonder that what about the things we can't even see? Do you see? So nobody's asking you to spend all the money in the world, but it is important that you should be able to improvise. You need to be able to see what do you have and how can you take care of it and make it look good and appealing. So if you are not taking care of the environment, what will make the parents confident in you being able to take care of their child? Are you aware the stagnant water bodies around school buildings could lead to a disease outbreak? Are you aware that broken fences, broken holes could be an entry point for kidnappers to come into a school, or for even creeping things, to get into the school environment? Are you aware that your choice of floor type could actually contribute to injury to children during play? Are you aware that trailing cables could lead to falls? Are you aware that dark corners in schools could actually encourage bullying, molestation, and other factors within a school premises? So do you see that there is so much that we need to take into consideration when we're talking about the built environment of a school? These things work together in safety. So don't just think, oh, it's insignificant. No, it actually plays a role. Research has shown that a built environment that incorporates lots of lighting and greenery reduces the threat of molestation or even bullying in school. So when people do not have dark corners to go and bully a child, it means bullying is not going to happen. Do you see? Just a little tweak there, and then will reduce the chances of bullying happening on the school premises. So you need to begin to look at your environment. Are there bushes around? Is there a way to just ensure that the environment looks good? And remember, I mentioned that the environment is not just the physical structure of the school, it also entails its surroundings. So your neighbors, is there something around your school premises that could endanger you? So maybe a bushy terrain outside the school, stagnant water outside the school, a drainage that passes through school. As a matter of fact, I visited a school where a drainage runs through the school, and what that school was so brilliant to do was they closed that drainage with slabs, and then they painted it in different colors. Can you see? That school owner decided to improvise because that is what they had access to, and that person chose to improvise. Also, very recently, we had a case in Anambra State where an overhead water tank from the next building fell into a school and ended up killing some children in that school. So can you see the importance of what your neighbors are doing or how your neighbors also look? Sometimes we have schools that are close to very busy intersections. We have schools that are in funny environment. If you play your part to ensure that that environment is safe, if you play your part to ensure that the outlook looks good, to some extent is going to communicate safety to anybody that comes into that premises. They are certain that nothing bad is going to happen to the children who have been brought into your care. Remember, nobody sends their child to school to die. The next point is your staff. Do they know their procedures? Do they know what is expected of them? You see, most times parents are not checking out what the school owner knows or what the head teacher knows, because they know that most times those ones know what to do. It's the little things they are checking. They're checking what your frontline staff are doing. How is the security personnel doing his job? How is the caregiver doing his or her job? Maybe the nanny, the cleaners, the frontline teachers. These are your front desk officers of the business. And so these are people that your parents get to interact with on a day-to-day basis. If they are worried about the competence of these people, then it makes them worried about the overall safety of that school, because they are not certain that those people will be able to act. And that's why we have cases where parents visit schools and then they begin to ask this frontline staff certain safety questions just to see if they are even aware of what they're supposed to do by time. Now, these are little things that could actually boost the confidence of the parents bringing their child to your school, because you understand that you know what is expected. You understand that the people that they are handing over their children to have gone the extra mile. So it's not just enough for only the person at the top to know what to do. Everybody. So from top to bottom, competence should be clearly seen. Such people should be friendly. Sometimes that's another thing that puts people off. A hostile environment is not a great place to raise children. It could affect their emotional health. And there's a new term going on now, emotional safety. When children do not feel that way in a school, to some extent it would affect them, and that would transfer to other aspects of their lives. So it's really important that we ensure that we create a good climate in our school environment, and staff, competent staff who know their various safety roles, are important when parents are deciding where to send their children to. Now, the very important point here is policies and procedures. Do you have a school safety policy? Do you have a child protection policy? Do you have a bullying policy? Do you have access control policy? You see, how you do one thing would determine how you do other things. If there is no defined system of taking actions in a school, people begin to bring in their own system of doing things, and that would lead to confusion, that would lead to conflict. That would mean that you're not always going to achieve a certain kind of result, because everybody is doing what they know to do, not what is prescribed to do. And so every school should have standard operating procedures for different tasks. When a stranger is about to access the school premises, what is the procedure? What should be done? When a child has experienced bullying or molestation in school, does the child know what is expected of that child? So your policies, your procedures are there to protect you. They are not there to just be cumbersome or to inconvenience you. No, they are what to protect you when things go wrong, because everybody should know about those procedures that you have. It shouldn't just be written in one manual or one book and kept in one office somewhere. It must be available and communicated to all stakeholders. Stakeholders refer to everybody who is concerned or will be affected by that particular activity. So in some cases it's teachers and students, in some cases it's teachers, students and parents. In some cases, even visitors are included. So you need to be able to create your policy and your procedures. By the way, I created an online course, Safety Mastery for Schools, and that takes you through the step-by-step process of how to do this. So you should find that course and take it. It's available on my site. You should find that course and take it. This is really going to help you to know how to create these things by yourself. So it's really important that we have a plan for different kinds of emergencies that can come up. So when we have a plan, and the thing is, we should actually be able to think wide. What could possibly go wrong? Then how can we manage it? And then we create procedures for each. so that when something begins to happen, we know what to do. All we probably would need to do might be to tweak a little here and there, but there is an existing document, is an existing template of what to do. And this is why School A, in the scenario I mentioned earlier, would have plans on what to do in a lockdown situation when school has to be shut down before it is over. And School B will be floundering because they did not even have a plan for something like that. So it's important to state here that there are existing templates of how to write safety policies and standard operating procedures, but you must be able to always make it suit your unique context. What you would need in a school in a mountainous region will be totally different from a school in a waterway. What you would need as procedures for a school that is just housed in a bungalow will be totally different from what a school that is a 3-story building would need. So it is important that you are not just doing copy and paste from one school to yours. You are choosing what works, what would fit, what would suit your specific context. So we're still talking about the important considerations when you're trying to ensure safety in your school, to ensure that your admission rate does not drop. We talked about the appearance of your school. We've talked about the quality of your staff. We've spoken about policies and standard operating procedures. And last but not the least is safety features. What do I mean by safety features? So safety features here is just a general term to encompass what are the safety gadgets, what are the safety systems that you have put in place. So do you have safety equipment in the right quantity? Are they serviceable? Are people knowledgeable? Are they trained on how to use them? So we've had a case where a fire broke out in a school and nobody knew how to use the fire extinguishers, even though they were present in sufficient quantity and they were working properly. Do you see knowledge gap? So people need to know what is expected and how to use the various safety features or gadgets that you have in your school. How to use a smoke detector, how to use a fire extinguisher, how to use signages. And signage refers to signs that are placed around the school premises to encourage people to take certain action. So for example, where is your muster point? Is there a signage at your muster point? Do you see? So you need to have these safety features and communicate to people. People need to be trained on what each of them means. So fire extinguishers, signages, muster points, first aid kits, or a sick bay. Depending on the size of your school, you might just need a first aid kit. While for some other schools, you might need a proper sick bay with a trained nurse. So again, context is coming up again. You need to be sure of what you need, what suits your specific context. One of the things that's supposed to also be noted when we're talking about safety features is what is your school bus maintenance plan? Many times people do not have a plan for their school bus, and this is one of the things that has caused some accidents in schools. You do not have to wait for something bad to happen before you go and fix your school bus. Your school bus is supposed to have a routine maintenance schedule. So at a certain time or a certain period, it needs to be maintained to be sure that all parts are functioning properly and to ensure that months down the line or weeks down the line an incident doesn't occur because of mismanagement. Do you see? So it's important to have a school bus maintenance plan. It's also important to have hand washing stations. You see, the way we set up our school would determine how certain habits are imbibed. We all know that children play. Children are going to play on the playground. Children are going to have fun. They're going to do so many things with their hands. So do we have hand washing stations to encourage the culture of washing hands after play, to encourage the culture of washing hands after eating, to encourage the culture of washing hands after using the toilet? So hand washing stations should also be a part of the safety feature in your school, and it should be spread across different parts, different areas in your school. The next one would also be the state of your security personnel. I alluded to that when I was talking about the scenario earlier, and I was talking about standard operating procedures. But this cannot be overemphasized. Your security personnel must know what to do per time. They should be trained. They should have a standard operating procedure of what they are supposed to do per time, and they should be trained on it. It's not enough to just tell them verbally. If it means having a class and teaching them, giving them documents so that they understand what you expect. Strict professionalism is very important, because your security personnel and your gate is the first barrier, is the first protection that you have put in place to safeguard everybody on that premises. So if they are not doing the right thing, or they are not even aware of how to act, it could become a problem for you. So it's really important that your security personnel are properly trained and they know what to do. So you might be wondering, okay, so based on all these things that Safety Chick is saying, I can already see the loopholes in my school. There are some things we do not have, or some things are not functioning well, or I didn't think not having a procedure was such a big deal. That's okay. It's okay not to have some things. That's why we're all learning, right? Now you have to play a role. Whether you are a parent, you are a teacher, or you are the school owner, you have a role to play. As a teacher, when you begin to identify things within the environment that are unsafe, the onus is on you to communicate these hazards, these problems, these loopholes to your school owner, letting them know the implications. Remember, manner of approach is very important when you're trying to get someone to come to your point of view. So when you take it to them, go with solutions. So this is what I learned. This is the way this is going to affect our school negatively. This is how it's going to affect our children. This is how it's going to affect our revenue. But these are the things we can do. When you come from that angle, a school owner will be more receptive to hear what you want to say. As a parent, what role do you have to play? You have a right to speak up. Many times, people that are within a system may not be able to see the problems within the system. It takes fresh eyes from outside to identify where the loopholes are. So when you see something that is not working right, you have the right to speak up, make suggestions, inform the teachers and the school. Oh, I noticed this. If this is like this, these are the potential things that could arise. And I'm sure they'll be glad to get that information from you, most especially when you communicate properly. You see, so don't have that fear of, I don't want them to say I'm a busybody, I don't want them to say my own is too much. No. This is something that could actually affect the safety of your child. So it's important that you play your part by speaking up when you see what is wrong. If you are a school owner, then you need to begin to think, how can I manage this situation? If I have the resources to overhaul the system entirely, great. But what if I do not have the resources to overhaul the system? How can I improvise? Remember the example of a drainage and colorful slabs I mentioned? I also noticed that there was a school I went to, and there's this play area for toddlers, but it's sort of under a stair. There are sharp corners around it. What that school did was they padded the whole area with rugs, with cushions, so we didn't totally overhaul the building, because the building wasn't there, it's a rented space. But they improvised, and that improvisation has made that place, which had sharp corners, to become a soft and comfy environment that children could play in. So really, as a school owner, I know you're worried about the cost. Let's not always think about cost when we're talking about safety. What is more important is ensuring that we improvise, we create systems to suit what we have. And by that, I mean, look at what you do not have. Begin to ask yourself, how can we make this system better with our existing resources? What can we change? What can we add? What can we improvise? You would see that you're going to begin to have some unique ideas that can suit your unique context. So don't be scared about the cost. And again, I must mention that even if you're worried about the cost, you must realize that the cost of an accident is way higher than whatever you're going to spend putting a safety system in place. And that's why your safety system has to suit your context. For instance, there are some schools that would just need a fire extinguisher or two, while there will be some school buildings that would actually need a sprinkler system because of maybe how big they are or the various resources and all that is in play. in that school. So do you see, context is really important. So everyone has a role to play as a teacher, as a parent, and as a school owner. Above all, it's important that you keep getting knowledge so that you are more equipped. Feel free to check out the video I mentioned earlier, the Safety Mastery for Schools course, and other videos, other training videos that I have shared that could enlighten you on how to make your environment safe. Remember, parents are always sharing notes with themselves, checking out various schools, checking out who is offering what, checking out who is performing better, and that is one of the things they consider when they begin to choose the school they're going to send their children to. I hope this has been a good use of your time. I hope you have learned a lot. I hope that you're also going to begin to implement some of the things you have learned to ensure that we create safe spaces and reduce avoidable accidents affecting children. See you.